Okay, I don't have a sample to show you in terms of something that is tapering. So what we will do is we will simply take a piece of paper, turn it into, let's say, a cone. Yeah, so it has a top and it has a bottom, or a bottom and a top or a bottom. When you end up looking at it like this, you will end up seeing a larger circle and you will also end up seeing the smaller circle. So what you have to understand over here in this question is that they have given you a product that looks like that, which is actually tapering down. So what happens is when you look from the top, you don't just see the larger circle, but if there is a taper over there, then you will see that smaller diameter. You will also end up seeing this diameter, but between that and that, there's a vertical line. So you don't really see both the rings, you'll see only one. However, this is tapering and therefore you will see a smaller circle as well. So you will have to make sure that you end up drawing the concentric circles depending upon how many ever you are seeing. So those are things that you will also have to keep in mind. So do count the number of rings you will end up seeing. Do also look at how many times it is tapering. So if you look at this carefully, there are 2 times it is tapering, which means that I will see the base, then 1 time taper and I'll see the center line, and then the 2nd time taper and I will also see the top line. So that means there are 3 concentric circles that will need to be drawn over there. They have given you the center line and therefore you know that that's the center of a circle. Moving forward, here they have also shared a cross section with you over here, and along with the cross section they have also shared some images which need to be shown here against this center line to explain to the viewer how an assembly or an exploded view would look of these elements put together. So when all of these are put together over here, this is the so-called sequence in which they come. So you have this the rivet that is over here, you have the first disc which is over here, then you have a washer which may show, may not show, then you have another disc which needs to be shown over here, and then you have the handle which you have to show separately at a later stage. So that's there. That's a cross-section view of something we call expanded polystyrene or thermocol. The only difference is thermocol does not have a laminate on either side, so this is closer to a styrofoam piece. But the way it works is that there are 2 films, and between the films there are lots of these highly compressed thermocol balls or styrofoam balls, which is basically polystyrene being expanded and shaped to look like balls, but they're actually not. They're just circular in shape, which means wherever I cut, I will end up seeing a structure like that. So you can follow through the question to figure out, if I was to cut this shape, how would I cut it, or what are the different materials I would use. One they have mentioned over here, which is a cutting mat, which you see below this paper of mine. Another tool could be this, and similarly a third tool could be this. So you need to remember the tools that you're using so that you can apply them over here. This question has 2 vanishing points, so you will have to figure out how that shape would look here. You have another partly drawn net development. They are asking you to take that pictogram and open it completely. Similarly over here, they have asked you for some information which you will have to share. Moving forward, this is a slightly more complicated question. They have given you a packaging. They want to see how you would notice it in different views. So you will have to talk about it. But more than the view, there is something interesting that they have shared over here. Something called 1:2. So main thing to remember is that sometimes they may ask you to draw in different ratios as well. Easiest thing to remember and recall, if ever they say 1:2, that simply means 1/2, which means it's talking about half of whatever has been shared. If ever it says 2:1, that means 2, because that everything is upon 1. which just means it's double. Okay, so whether it's 1:2, 1:5, 1:10, or it's 2:1, 10:1, 5:1, you simply have to figure out which value you get over here, and therefore what is it that you call it. So if it is 1:3, that's obviously 1/3. If it's 1:10, then that's 1/10. Similarly, whether it's 5 and 10, that means 5 times the value or 10 times the value. So it's always into whatever the value may be. Okay, so that's over here, and that is obviously the fraction that you end up seeing.